Welcome to If Numbers Could Talk. My name is Keelan. If Numbers Could Talk is a part of the Thinkering Group. You can find us over at thinkering.space. You can also find at Thinkering Space the Thinkering Talks podcast, the Exofathom podcast, along with the Plank Talks with Joe. When you get a chance, please check out our merchandise. We have merchandise on our website, thinkering.space, as well as merchandise at teespring.com/thinkering shop. Please visit, grab a t-shirt, grab a mug. We'll appreciate it. And when you do, feel free to let us know that you've decided to become a member of any of our fan clubs. Today's episode is going to be all about what it is to grow to the age of a leader and what is the age of a leader. Welcome to If Numbers Could Talk. My name is Keelan. I will be your host. Now, what do I mean when I say what is the age of leader? What is the age of a leader? Well, I mean exactly what it sounds like. What is the age of someone that is able to lead, someone that is able to rule, someone that is able to control, someone who is able to govern or make decisions for an entire mass of people? What is that age? And what is the age officially you become a leader? Not just in our time, but in previous times. But for the most part, I will be talking about or catching up to where we are today, how we view that. And I think for the most part, we all understand how we view as a society the age of a leader. I don't think anyone in our society is looking for 9 and 3-year-old leaders or 6-year-old leaders. At the same time, I think we'll be pleasantly surprised at how old some of our current legislators or representatives are. Now, I won't go into detail with names, and I probably won't break them all the way down as much as you like as far as what they do, who they are, and where they are. But I'm going to give some good ballparks, some general figures about, again, the ages of people who are in charge of certain things. And I'll even allude to some of the things that they are doing or that they have accomplished to be in positions of leadership. Now, when we talk about leadership in the past, we're just talking about mostly rulers, emperors, kings, conquerors. Those are the kind of rulers we're talking about. At the beginning, at least. So allow me to help you with that. The youngest rulers in history, from some of my research, not all of my research. I made this a very condensed amount of information because I felt like it got a little repetitive at a point. I think you'll understand as I move through this. Some of the youngest rulers throughout history. Let's start with a familiar name, King Tut. King Tut was a 9-year-old king. He came into power at 9 years old, King Tut did. But he wasn't the youngest. The youngest that I could find was Henry VI, who came into power at 9 months. Now, there were plenty of rulers who were technically kings and emperors or conquerors or however you want to look at it before birth because of what their father or their success, the person that come before them had accomplished. Because of that, I didn't quite name those people. A lot of them who were entitled or become heirs or heiress, even when I get down to some of the later sections, the heirs of things, I didn't really put them in there. Also, some of the heirs, they have a structure already in place. So the heir is in power. The heir is the person who their name goes on everything, right? It says this king, King Ferdinand, King whomever, right? But there is an entire group. There is an entire system already that is set to rule until that child hits a certain age. So you may come into succession or come into power at 1 day old because you get as soon as birth hits. But until you're 16, there may be a plan or a group or someone already there to take over until you hit a certain age. I try not to put them in this discussion. I'm not going to name many of their numbers or names. Now, again, didn't name many names. Most of the names I do have in here are old names. Example, King Tut, Henry VI, who was 9 months old when he came into power. The next person we have is Ptolemy VIII, Theos Philopator, who was also the brother and husband of Cleopatra, who came into power at the age of 11. The age of 11. Now, all of the wars you heard in Cleopatra's time that were against and or for her were all started by her brother Ptolemy. Forgive me if my pronunciations are not correct. But I thought that was interesting as well. So you're 11 years old. The most famous queen of all time was your sister, and due to the way things worked back then, was also wed to him. They also were married so that the power stayed within the family structure, I suppose. We'll all have to do a little homework to figure that one out. One of the others, now there are a few that are current, but you also have King Sabuza II, who was empowered in Swaziland. He has 70 wives and 100 children. He reigned from 1 year old until he was 83 years old. So 82 years he was in power. And it seemed like while he was in power from 1 year old to 83, his kingdom was flourishing. They did very well. Elagabalus was 15 years old when he came into power. Now, again, I'm talking about the youngest rulers, emperors, people from the past. So we could also talk about people from the past, but also people from the future. And when I say the past, these are simply people that we don't talk about on a regular basis, but they are running things in a traditional fashion for where they're from. So we have two people who came into power very young, but they are still alive. One is no longer in power. He was the 6-year-old king of Belgium. Or I'm sorry, I said that incorrectly. He was the 6-year-old king of Bulgaria. The 6-year-old king of Bulgaria. And at 64, he became the prime minister of Bulgaria. His name is Simeon Saxe-Coburg-Gotha. He was the 6-year-old king of Bulgaria and the 64-year-old prime minister of Bulgaria, and is currently still alive at 88, or excuse me, in his 80s. I want to say he's 83, in fact, and I apologize for that misquote. But he is currently in his 80s, which means he is still alive during this time, and he is one of the youngest people to ever come into power. Another gentleman who was one of the youngest, if not the youngest, that is still alive person to ever come into power and be alive today, is King Oyo of Toro, Uganda. King Oyo of Toro, Uganda. He was 3 years old when he came into power and is currently still in power at the age of 27, maybe 28 years old. King Oyo of Toro, Uganda. So as you see, I started a lot further back into some familiar names from our history books. King Tut and how young he was. Henry VI, Ptolemy, who was the husband of Cleopatra, how young they were and what they went through. And I ended with King Oyo, who is currently still living, and in fact, younger than I am right this very moment as we speak. So from there, I think to myself, these numbers that we're talking about, right? Why is it that we feel, or maybe I'm wrong? Are you guys also comment? Let me know, if numbers could talk at gmail.com. You could always email me some information if you want to talk about these things. But why is it that we wait so long to give power to those that we feel have a higher level of aptitude? We have to empower people sooner. We don't have to wait until they're 18, 21, 25, 35, et cetera, et cetera. Here's an example. The next list I have for you is a list of billionaires. A list of billionaires. Billionaires under the age of 30 years old. Billionaires under the age of 30 years old. Well, let me be clear. I'm not going to give you names. I'm going to give you what some of the fields that these billionaires under 30 years old work in. Now, yes, some of the billionaires under 30 years old are heirs to, who knows, real estate, oil, fish farms even. But then there's a lot of self-made billionaires out there under the age of 30. Some of them are even 18, 19. Now, I couldn't do millionaires. I could have done millionaires, but we know there's a lot of millionaires. I mean, for God's sake, there's 5 and 8-year-old millionaires because of YouTube and things of that nature. So we know that there's a lot of millionaires out there, but billionaires under the age of 30. And I want to say at least 2 of them are under the age of 20. Here are some of the fields that you should probably look into if you have any interest in them and you think maybe, just maybe, I can jump into this industry and make waves. Because that's what these guys did, or these ladies as well. None of these aren't just guys. Some of them are girls. This is a large pool of thousands of people as far as billionaires are concerned. But under the age of 30, some of those billionaires are into fashion, modeling, and makeup, auto mechanics and auto parts, manufacturing those things, real estate and investments, general investments, real estate investments, things of that nature. Maybe they're venture capitalists. They may have come into a little bit of money somewhere else and they took that money and funded something like a tech company, a startup, cryptocurrency, oil, health insurance, and or healthcare in general. Or just, like I said a moment ago, tech, but applications. So tech startups and applications are all kind of different fields under one umbrella. If you aren't really into it, you kind of, what part of that are you strongest at? Are you good at building the company? Are you good at building the application itself? Are you good at the technology behind the application? So people are able to make money in all of those fields, billionaires in all of those fields, right? So these are the leaders of today. They are leading the economic market because they have, before 30 years old, they have become some of the most affluent, I guess we'll use the word, people of today. It means influential. They'll be able to make changes in the fields in which that they delve and they work. Under 30, there are at least 15 billionaires under 30. 15 billionaires under 30. And from my math, about 8 of the 15 are under 25, and 2 of them are under 20. Now, we've talked about the olden rulers from times before, and how there's still people alive today who rule in the traditional sense, but started long ago at 3 and 6 years old. We talked about billionaires, 15 billionaires younger than me. In fact, younger than me, because I'll be 33 this year. I'm 32 currently. Younger than me, there's actually about 27 billionaires. So from the age of 30 to 32, 33, there's an additional 12 billionaires? That's crazy. But it tells me that we wait too long. We're not letting the numbers speak to us. We're speaking for them. The numbers are talking, they're right in our ears and they're saying to us, hey, you're waiting too long. You need to start now. You're 13, you want to do it, you start now. You're an 8 and you see they're 8, you see that spark, you help them start. You nurture that, right? Well, there are some people who have been nurtured just a little bit in our society, and they've gotten to places that we would not know if we didn't do the homework. And I did some of that homework. Now let's talk about the running of districts, the running of states, right? The representatives of the country, the United States. Now, there has not been since 1973 a senator. There has not been since 1973 a senator who is 30 years or younger. There has not been since 1973 a senator who is 70 years of age or young, or excuse me, 30 years of age or younger. You guys will understand that one in a minute. Since 1973, I will say this one more time. There has not been a senator of 30 years of age or younger. Representatives, plenty, but we'll get to that. And the last 30-year-old senator, not turning 30, not just turned 30, the last, or excuse me, they were all 31, 33, older. The last 30-year-old senator elected to be a senator at 30 in 1973 is our current president, Joe Biden. The last senator to be elected as in a Senate, into the Senate, at the age of 30 or younger was our current president, Joe Biden, in 1973. Now, with that being the case, don't think that this cannot change sometime very, very soon. Yes, the last 30-year-old senator was 1973. That same senator just so happens to be our current president. But what about representatives, right? So these ages that we're throwing out here, I mean, this is for everybody. You just think about it. You figure out, you see a little spark in someone, you want to push them up that way, you help them out. So our youngest, now throughout time, there has been plenty. There's even been 21-year-old district representatives or state representatives. There's been 23 and 24-year-old state representatives. However, this year in 2021, there was a 25-year-old district representative nominated into or elected into office. So I'll just run with that. You can be at least at the minimum 25 years of age and be in charge of an entire district, maybe in the same neighborhood you grew up in, or at least in a community that you care enough to change. You could be 25 years old. All you have to do is do your homework, figure out what it is you need to get to that level. And that's a high level of influence. A state representative at 25 years old. Just imagine the differences that could be made. I am only thinking of this because, again, I think to myself, in our society, what is the perfect age of a leader? What is the age of a leader? When do we allow someone to be in charge of themselves, less knowing anyone else? What is that age? I think it needs to change. I'm glad to see it is changing. In fact, if we look around in our society today, again, we have millionaires that are teenagers and even children, toddlers, maybe elementary school children who were given an opportunity. Someone saw something in them and they nurtured it and they are moving forward. I suggest we all continue to do the same. Try that out a little bit. Let's see how it works for the next generation. I appreciate you, everyone who is attending, who has attended. If you're going to listen on the playback, I appreciate you. If you're not going to listen on the playback, you're just going to tell somebody else about it, I still appreciate you. If you're interested in what comes up next, if you were intrigued by this episode, or if you did or did not like it, please leave a comment. You can send me something over at ifnumberscouldtalk@gmail.com. And by all means, I do appreciate you. Take care of yourself and those you love. I'll see you guys next week. Oh, well, I guess I can talk while this is up, huh? And then, not just while I see you guys next week, I really, 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 really appreciate you guys for sticking around this long, because you never know what we have coming up, like Screen Time Continuum in the Loki series, Exofathom. They were just talking about shadow people last night. Check us out, guys. Thinker and Talks page on Facebook, Exofathom page on Facebook and YouTube, Thinker and Talks page on YouTube as well as the If Numbers Could Talk where you are today. I appreciate you guys. Have a great one.